to Eye on Horror, the official podcast of iHorror.com. This is episode 121, otherwise known as season 7, episode 2. I am your host, James J. Edwards, and with me, as always, is your other host, Jacob Davison. How you doing, Jacob?
Not that great. Going through a bit of a flu. Definitely better now than earlier, but still a little bit out of it. And I'm kind of doing this episode on NyQuil, so I may not even remember doing this. So I will listen to this episode later to remember what it is that I said.
Yeah, we'll remember it for you. We, not COVID though, right? You took tests?
No, I took multiple tests, came back negative.
Cool.
I think it's just a flu.
Because my COVID just felt like a bad cold. So I think that it's mutated and it's not, it's not like, losing smell and taste anymore. It's just a really bad, a really bad time.
Yeah, but no, I've tested multiple times. It's come back negative. I'm pretty sure it's just a flu or cold or something.
That's going around too. So
yeah, I mean, there's multiple diseases out there.
Yep. Also with us, as always, is your other host, John Correa. How you doing, Correa?
Doing pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of stuff flying around out there, so I'm real glad I hopped on that lightning deal the other day and picked up about 300 more K95s. Yeah, I'm still masking. And yeah, that between that and the fact that I never leave my house, I mean, it's not out of fear, just I'm busy. I got stuff to do here.
I never leave the house because there's no reason to. I go to movies is pretty much it. And I have to admit, I had been complacent, which it doesn't really surprise me that I ended up with COVID because I haven't been masking everywhere I go and I didn't get the last booster. So, I did get a little too comfortable with, and not too comfortable with the new way things are. I guess I slid back to the way things used to be. But yep. So what's been going on, you guys? See anything good?
I went to a pre-screening of the new Ethan Coen movie, Drive Away Dolls.
Yeah, I saw it too. What'd you think?
I loved it. I thought it was so much fun.
It is the craziest movie. I tell you what we're seeing with the Coens making individual movies is their movies have always had this quirky thing going for them. And now we're seeing which of them is the intellectual cinephile, that's Joel, and which is the kind of kitsch schlock, John Waters
Slapstick
type filmmaker. Yeah. And that is Ethan. And because one makes The Tragedy of Macbeth and the other makes Drive Away Dolls.
Yeah, no, and it very much harkens back to some of their original stories that they were doing with Sam Raimi. Because there's a scene in the opening that reminded me so much of Crime Wave, that other early Sam Raimi Coen Brothers collaboration. There's a lot of slapstick and gore and just kind of over the top gags, and it's a period kind of crime caper because it's about these two lesbian women played by Geraldine Viswanathan and Margaret Qualley.
Margaret Qualley from The Leftovers.
Yeah. And they take a car down to Tallahassee, Florida, and turns out they took the wrong car or they were accidentally given the wrong car and shit goes wild.
There's a MacGuffin in this movie that they eventually let you know what it is. It's not like Pulp Fiction. It actually is like Pulp Fiction because it's a suitcase. Mm-hmm. It's a briefcase, but they do actually show you what's in it. And the reveal is amazing of what is in this case.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Nope, I'm not gonna.
It is pretty wild. And also it's fun because it's a period movie too, because it takes place in 1999.
That's awesome. Does Y2K make an appearance or have any influence over it, like the Y2K scare?
Yeah, they do reference it a couple times in the movie.
I have one question about the movie. I want to know if basement parties are real. Because I've never hung out with women's soccer teams. I've hung out with a lot of roller derby players. But I don't know if Basement Parties are right. If you don't know what a basement party is, see the movie and then come back and let me know if those are real.
Intrigued minds are inquiring.
Hmm.
I saw something. I don't know if you guys did. Either of you guys see Madam Web?
Nope.
No, but I have been following the ever living shit out of its like ad campaign based or like promotional campaign and how much of an absolute shit show that is. It's great.
Yeah, Dakota Johnson don't give a fuck.
The movie is an absolute shit show. Yeah, Dakota Johnson is just. I saw this thing where some interviewer asked her to name the 3 Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and she's all, Spider-Man, here he is. Spider-Man, he's back. The Goblet of Spider-Man, or something like that. Like not even close to the real names. Oh no, Madam Web is really bad. It is like. I mean, I'm a pretty soft critic and I can usually find something positive to say about any movie, but I can't think of anything about Madam Web to say. And neither could Mike Flanagan, apparently.
Oh, Mike Flanagan's Letterboxd review was great. If you don't know, Mike Flanagan's Letterboxd is very positive. He's very much of the same mindset that, he knows it takes miracles to get anything fucking made.
Yes.
But, so for Madam Web in his review, he just put the entire transcript for the Nicole Kidman AMC thing as the description. But then if you look at the tags, that's where you see like some of his actual thoughts. Like he tagged responsibility, great power, D Spider Woman, exposition to cats, convenient explosions, Britney Spears, facial recognition, fireworks because. Don't say Peter Parker.
Oh my God.
Wait, why is she blind?
They dance around the Peter Parker thing. And I'm going to spoil this because it's going to avoid some people's frustration. In this movie, Dakota Johnson's character, Cassandra Webb, she's a paramedic. Her partner is Ben Parker. Yeah, Uncle Ben.
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott. And
Yeah.
then they meet Adam Scott's sister, Mary Parker, which is Emma Roberts, and she's pregnant. And they
Emma
do this
Roberts?
She's pregnant in the
Scream
movie.
Queens.
But like,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you finish your thing. I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they keep dancing around. What are you going to name the baby? What are you going to name it? And they even get to the point where he goes, the name we have chosen is, and then like a siren kind of. They keep dancing around. They never reveal it, but yeah, you're led to believe that she's given birth to little Peter Parker. But anyway, go Emma Roberts. I love her, by the way, so don't speak ill of her.
Oh, I wouldn't speak ill of Emma Roberts. She was the lead in Scream Queens. I can't be mad at almost anyone in that cast, and that includes Leah Michele. Because I've heard mean things about her. But
I have too. But anyway.
But yeah. But Emma Roberts in a superhero movie, and she's not a villain. It doesn't feel right. Like, why would you sideline her? Like, she could be like an over the top billionaire like type. Like she would make a great villain. Man. But also apparently to not only Flanagan, a lot of people, the dubbing, because his last tags are ADR dubbing. No, really, the ADR.
Yeah, it's funny. I've heard somebody compare the ADR dubbing in Madam Web to the over-the-top ADR dubbing of an Italian giallo movie.
I heard it compared to Kung Pao Enter the Fist. Which was purposefully done bad.
Yeah.
So
it's the other hashtag, the facial recognition. That part is, which is another one of my favorites. Zosha Mamet is in it, and she plays the villain's like technology expert. And it's similar to what they do in The Dark Knight, where they can tap into every single security camera in New York City to find, what they're looking for. And it's like a total of 12 screens in front of her. I'm like, oh, come on, you guys. Every security camera in New York City, millions of cameras, and you've got them on this little, oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that, because I also like Dakota Johnson. I'm hoping and Sydney Sweeney. I'm hoping these girls can bounce back from this bad movie because the cast is good. They're not good in it, but they're good.
if you're gonna rip off the Dark Knight, don't rip off the stupidest part of Dark Knight. Like that whole sequence was just like, you're asking us to take a major leap of faith that this is a thing that is a thing. Like cell phones, I don't even want to get into that. Yeah. But no, apparently it's like a huge kerfuffle because we know Dakota Johnson's been, not really promoting the thing and instead using the platform to like address issues in the industry and stuff, which is really great. But there's also been like some stuff coming out, like apparently a lot of the girls, the actresses in it thought they were signing on to an MCU movie. And so
Sydney Sweeney did. Yeah.
Mhm.
She's all, I'm so happy to be part of the MCU. It's like, well, but are you? I mean, I guess these Sony movies can kind of cross over if they're good enough, but Madam Web is not good enough.
But even so, a lot of them have left their representation. Or some of them are. That's rumors and stuff. So I don't want to perpetuate anything that's not true. But like, if so, like, understandable with all the reviews. Didn't also they avoid saying with great power comes great responsibility? And I have this memorized because I can't not remember it. It's
they morph it
where it's what is it? It's when you take responsibility, you gain great abilities.
It's even more obvious. I think it says something like, and with this responsibility comes great power. It's something like that. But they flip it. And it's just one of those groan moments when they say that.
Yikes.
How do you also have a movie with like 3 or 4 Spider Women in it and they don't even become Spider Women? That seems like a disservice.
Yeah, it kind of misses the point.
And the thing is, they marketed it as, these 3 are Spider Women. And in the course of the film, another minor spoiler, they don't actually become the Spider Women. What it is the main villain is Ezekiel Sims, and he has a dream that these 3 Spider Women are going to kill him. So you see them as Spider Women in his dreams. So he's going to kill them first. And so he's hunting these girls down before they get their powers. And so much of it is like, okay, the chances of these 5 people being in the same place in New York City at the same time for this to happen. Okay. Wait, we've talked enough about Madam Web.
I mean, I'm in the middle of rewatching season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, which is dealing with a lot of space-time baloney. So like my tolerance is pretty shot for any future time stuffs. But hey, at least there's a lot of great scenes with Michelle Yeoh and David. Do you know David Cronenberg's in Star Trek Discovery? I
haven't watched Discovery, but I've seen the clips of him like interrogating somebthis
He's interrogating Michelle Yeoh, and that scene's great. It's just
right.
Man, they're fantastic. This isn't a Trek podcast.
I love David Cronenberg, the actor, way more than I love Quentin Tarantino, the actor.
That's not even a competition. Especially after Django Unchained. That's no. He was good in From Dusk Till Dawn, though. But then again,
he has the best part in Pulp Fiction, I think.
It's one of them. I haven't watched a lot of movies since we last spoke, but I did finish watching True Detective Night Country. Have you guys watched that season yet?
Yes, I loved it.
Now, I've only seen the first season of True Detective. Is this related to that? I mean, is this basically a continuation of that?
So this one is more tied to season 1 than the previous 2 seasons. I'm in a similar boat. So I had to look into this because it is an anthology series, but the team behind Night Country did make a bunch of references and connections to it. But it's little things, and it's like more thematic connections. There are there's little things that I don't want to spoil that like connect it more to it, but there's a lot of thematic. There's a couple lines, but this is like the most like spiritual successor, like sequel-esque to it. But it is, one's in Texas, the other one's in Alaska at different times, but it's absolutely phenomenal. And Issa Lopez and team completely knocked it out of the park. And that finale was just, so good.
Now, see, I've heard other people who are really pissed off with the finale. So it kind of makes me want to watch the whole season just to see what side of the fence I fall on.
Yeah. I mean, people who don't like that finale, honestly, can go fuck themselves. Because And you know why a lot of people are getting pissed about it? Because they're going, oh, you didn't give a definite answer about. It's like, dude, there was like 20 different questions put up. Not everything has to be answered. Leave some things can stay a mystery. And especially one of the great things about this season is they incorporate a lot of like stuff that could be perceived as supernatural or things that have kind of like a supernatural folktale version of it. And there's a lot of aspects, not even just the finale, but throughout, where it's like, well, there is a logical explanation for this and there's a spiritual explanation for this, and both can be valid. And I really appreciate that balancing act that they had to pull off with it.
Yeah, no, I really liked it. I thought the the plot line really came together in the end, and yeah, no, just the whole night country setting, and yeah, no, just I really enjoyed it.
It's really good, and the performances are phenomenal. Like Jodie Foster plays a real bastard, like but like they give really good like she has a really good arc with it and really great motivation. And it's really surprising because some of the things that comes out of her character's mouth is just like, what? Whoa. But it makes sense once you know the whole story. And yeah, I mean, I know I've said it multiple times, but if I ever win the lottery, I won't tell anyone, but Issa Lopez will be funded for life.
Yeah. And also really like Callie Reyes as her partner, which, it's like each season of True Detective, it really depends on like the detective partner's strength. And I thought that Jodie Foster and Callie Reyes made for a good pairing.
They were so good together. So like such kind of opposites, because Callie Reyes is really like, her character is really kind of embracing the kind of more spiritual side of things. And it's kind of, they're both dealing with grief in their own ways. And Jodie Foster is just like, her character is just like not handling it at all. Her grief and everything. And yeah, they're so good. And Callie Reyes is a fellow New Englander. She's from Rhode Island. So there's that. So yeah, great on her. That's only her second role. She was only in one other movie. She was a professional boxer. Like, nice. Yeah. All I'm trying to say is she's like already jumping into my list of coolest people ever. So,
oh yeah. On my end, I saw She Is Conan a little bit ago. Have either of you heard of this?
I've heard of it. How is it? I'm so intrigued by it.
I thought it was very fascinating. So basically, it's this kind of reinterpretation of the Conan mythos by French director Bertrand Mandico, who did a lot of these other very LGBTQ and surreal and fantastical movies like The Wild Boys and After Blue. These movies have been coming out for like Altered Innocence the past several years. And so it's basically about the life of a female Conan the Barbarian, and it's like these different parts of her life as she dies and is reborn again and again through time, and she is constantly followed by this dog-faced incarnation of death who kind of haunts her, and it just kind of deals with her encountering the barbarism from the Hyborian age and like the original Conan to 1998 Soho and war zones, and it's really out there. It's trippy, but it was also compelling, and it's definitely the most creative reinterpretation of Conan I can imagine. There's even a Red Sonja character who pops up through the movie too. It's also just funny because it's the same time that new Conan 4K set came out. So
yeah, I just got my box set for the Conan, and it is beefy. That is a beefy set.
Just like Arnold's arms.
Arnold's arms. Oh man, I can't wait to deep dive into that. I also just recently got the history and making of Conan the Barbarian book that was written by John Walsh. He's actually been putting out some like really great books about movies. He did one on Escape from New York, and last year also just came out with a Wicker Man, the official story of the film, which is also phenomenal. These are like tall books too. Like they're not like thick as in pages, but they're like big as in like size. They're really cool, and so highly recommend picking those up. The Wicker Man, especially, I was able to go through that one a lot more than the Conan, but. Yeah, I'm really excited about this new Conan movie and ready to do a massive marathon. I just need to track down that 4K that Studio Canal did of Red Sonja. I missed out on that when that first came out.
But yeah, you should check out She's Conan just to kind of offset that and just kind of compare. Because yeah, it's like just a very weird kind of dreamlike and all woman Conan version. And it's hard to describe, but it is fascinating.
I didn't realize it was from the director of Wild Boys and After Blue.
Yep.
And so your description of She is Conan is it's like, yeah, that sounds exactly like what the filmmaker does, which is awesome.
No, it's on brand for Bertrand.
Also, I saw this week, which is not out yet, but I'm not breaking embargo. I saw Dune Part 2.
Ooh,
you guys excited for Dune Part 2?
Oh, you bet I am.
It is. If you like Part 1, you'll like Part 2. It's almost like a war movie because Paul has moved out Paul and his mom have moved out into the desert after surviving, the hit on their family, and they're hanging with the Fremen now. And the Fremen are basically terrorists. They want to disrupt the spice harvesting on their planet. So it's a lot like a war movie is what it feels like, but it's a whole lot of Dune. I mean, it's got another one of those seat rattling scores by Hans Zimmer and a lot of good action. It actually would be cool to see in 4DX. I saw it in IMAX with like a big, Dolby system, but it'd be cool in 4DX, I think, because there's a lot of riding those dragonfly ships that they have and they ride the worms, and I feel like they could do a lot with the HDX or with the 4DX for that. But yeah, it's a Dune movie. It's if you like the Dune movies, it's kind of long, in that it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. But here's the kicker, and I always think this should be spoiled too. There's a part 3. There's not. Oh yeah, well, it's because I didn't know there was a part 2 to Dune until I sat down and the first screen said Dune Part 1. And I'm like, okay. And at the end of Part 1, if you guys remember, Zendaya's character says, she says, this is just the beginning. And then towards the end of this one, she says, it's not over yet. you're like, okay, we're going for a part 3. But it definitely ends in a good cliffhanger. This is kind of like, I don't know if it's going to end up being a trilogy or if they're going to go past a part 3, but it kind of is a good Empire Strikes Back for it, because in the place that it ends is almost there's resolution to it, but it's also kind of a cliffhanger. It leaves you going at some place where, they have to move forward. But yeah, it's not going to disappoint Dune fans.
Yeah, I remember Villanueva saying that he intended to make it a trilogy.
Okay.
Which makes sense, especially as someone who's never read a Dune book in their life. A lot of my friends who do read Dune are basically say like, I think it's either the second or third one. It gets real weird, and they're like, I don't know how anyone can interpret that. So like, kind of splitting it up and kind of like at least telling the first book completely, and like kind of like having it, be a complete story over 3. That sounds, again, from what I've been told by Dune nerds, it sounds logical. And awesome.
I haven't read any of the books either, but I saw Jodorowsky's Dune, the documentary.
Yeah.
And when he was planning to do Dune, it was going to end up being like 18 hours because it's just such a dense story. So yeah, it shouldn't surprise anyone that this is going at least into probably 9 hours if it's the same length as the first two.
It's also Jodorowsky. I mean, that man is ambitious. Like that is, if there's any word to describe him.
If any of you have not seen Jodorowsky's Dune, his plan for Dune, I mean, David Carradine, Mick Jagger was in it. He had two different soundtracks, one by Magna and one by Pink Floyd that he was. I mean, this was
Salvador Dali was going to be in it.
Oh my God. He had Geiger
Orson Welles
on.
was going to be in it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Orson Welles would have played that character amazingly.
Oh yeah. like basically
Baron Harkonnen, Orson Welles.
He would have been such an amazing Baron Harkonnen.
It's also interesting to see how much of like the unmade Jodorowsky Dune was then like pulled into other things, because basically like the writing team went on to do Alien with Geiger, and it was like how much cinema we have because this. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, speaking of, I saw the anniversary screening of David Lynch's Dune last week.
Oh, nice. Ding in a Speedo.
Yes, to the styling music of Toto.
The Sting in a Speedo character is Austin Butler in Villeneuve in part 2.
Does he still have his Elvis accent in it?
No, he doesn't. And he is shaved bald, like not even eyebrows. He is, I mean,
Nice.
a lot of the Harkonnen clan is bald and hairless. Like that Batista is one of them as well in it. But it's real noticeable that he is he looks like one of the engineers
from Prometheus.
Yeah, from Prometheus, one of the engineers. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, no, it's funny too, because like in Lynch's Dune, the Harkonnens are all redheads, and in Villeneuve's Dune, they're all just like weird, pale, hairless, bald guys.
I still can't get over the fact that the main character in Dune is just named Paul.
Yep,
Like
good old Paul.
Yeah.
That's just there's so much about it, especially with like the Middle Eastern influences throughout all this stuff, and it's like this big epic thing, and it's who's our lead, who's our hero? Paul.
Well, they give him another name when he starts riding with the Fremen. So
Yeah,
They have to. I mean, no one's gonna take Paul serious. Sorry to Pauls out there, but like
and again, seeing Lynch's Dune, which itself is a condensed version of the entire book into one film, I am interested in comparing it to Villeneuve's Part 2 and seeing what stuff, like gets expanded upon or what was kept in. Because because I feel like seeing Lynch's Dune gives me a kind of a preview of what's to come, but seeing Villeneuve's fully immersed, spread out version should give me new insight into it, because I also have yet to read Dune as a book.
ooh, real quick, I have a big recommendation on Netflix. Mr. Organ was recently added to Netflix, and if you guys haven't seen Mr. Organ, yeah, you need to watch it. It's a weird documentary. It's from the journalist David Ferreira, who did Tickled years ago. And if you know me, I became very obsessed with Tickled in like the most like how could you not with that weird ass story. He did it again. He got himself involved with a really weird story that starts off with a guy who is booting people who park in an antique store's parking lot. And it goes down this really weird rabbit hole that I don't even know if I can spoil it, because it's just so weird and goes in so many directions.
is it a documentary or is it fiction?
It's a documentary, and it's one of those ones where the journalist gets heavily involved, and the subject piece he just does not leave him alone. It's kind of insane and weird and just very New Zealand, because he's a New Zealand journalist and it's about this man. But yeah, Mr. Organ, I'm telling you, if you, it's not going to be as weird as Tickled was, because if you know, Tickled was the documentary about competitive tickle competitions and how weird that was, but it is similar in its just like and it's similar in its weirdness, but like it's not uncomfortable like that in that way. I don't. It's those movies are weird to describe, but yeah, Mr. Oregon, it's an experience. That's for certain. Highly recommend.
Hmm.
Cool. Now let's bring in our special guest. Today we are joined with Ian Hunt-Duffy, who is the director of the new movie Double Blind. How you doing, Ian?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks for being here. Um, let's start off at the beginning. How did you get started with filmmaking?
Oh, I think it's probably like the cliche thing of a little kid with a camcorder using his dad's camcorder for recreating action movies and horror movies, like with action figures up in my bedroom, like making stop motion videos or using like cap guns to like shoot each other and like try and figure out a way to do blood hits like squibs, all these kind of things. Like, and then I didn't realize that there was a career necessarily. It was only I remember seeing a behind the scenes video when I was really young for Terminator 2, and it showed the chase sequence through the LA riverbed, and it was showing that stunt, and I was just showing the behind the scenes, and I was blown away. I never put two and two together that people actually made these films, that they didn't arrive fully formed. I was like, wow, there are people that like got paid to do this. This is a career. Wow. And so from a really young age, I was like, I want to do that. I want to like make films. But where I'm from Ireland, a small town in Ireland, and like to say, I want to be a film director. It was not like being in LA or something, it was kind of like saying you wanted to be a rock star or something, it was this crazy dream. And so it was something that I held on to from a young age. Oh yeah, I'm gonna make films, but like I went to school and studied different things, and we had a career guidance counselor who tried to like steer me away from that. Like, so would you not get a real job? But there's a film school in Ireland, in Dublin, and yeah, so I just aimed towards getting to that film school. When I got out of, it's called secondary school here, but I suppose like the equivalent of high school, I worked for a year just like saving up some money, and then also in my spare time putting a portfolio together, like, taking photographs and different things and making a little short film. And then I submitted that to film school, and I got in then. And that's kind of where I studied film, I suppose, for 4 years.
That's awesome. What was the alternative vocation that they were trying to push you towards? Because when I took the high school vocation, they were like, so it sounds like you'd be really interested in being an electrician, or yeah. I think one of the options was like a scuba diver, but for the sanitation department, i.e. scuba diving and poo or something. And I was like, that's like not I don't feel like that's my trajectory.
I think it was engineering, and I have no like interest or I don't have the brain for engineering, so I don't know where that came from. It was like, yeah, like get a solid job in engineering, but I did have some teachers that like an English teacher he was big into film, and he would show us as part of our kind of curriculum. He would show like different films, and he was inspirational in that sense. Like, he was always encouraging us to watch films and to study film, like not just passively watch films, but to like, study the meaning behind it and the making of it as well. So there were other people who were encouraging the more artistic side of things. But then after film school, so like it was 4 years, and you make various different kinds of short films and stuff in film school. When I came out, I set up a production company in Dublin with a producer called Simon Doyle, who I met in film school. And then over the next like decade, really, we were just making short films and commercials and music videos, anything really, like just building up a body of work, but always working towards that first feature film. I directed a short film called Gridlock, which was a thriller, a whodunit thriller, set during a traffic jam on a country road where a little girl goes missing from one of the cars, and all the other drivers then become suspects. So it's a bit of a Twilight Zone episode, and like this 20-minute short. And that did really well. That won a lot of awards, and we got to travel around to a bunch of festivals around the world. And that then was kind of a calling card. It's like, okay, these are kind of, I want to make genre films. This is the kind of sandbox I want to play in. So on the back of that, I got funding to make another short film, which was called Low Tide. That was more of a horror film. And I was trying to be kind of strategic. I knew what I wanted to do for my first feature, like the kind of genre horror thriller. So I was trying to make short films that were indicative of that, or that when it came time, hopefully, to pitch my first feature, I could say, well, look what I've been doing, Yeah. So and yeah, like that was Screen Ireland are the main funding body in Ireland, like for making films. They funded that short film, and then on the back of that, then when we submitted the screenplay for development for Double Blind, they gave us full money to develop that. Like so, that's a very truncated version, but I hope that answers how I how I got here.
Yeah. No, I mean that sums it up pretty nicely. And I wanted to ask, so where did the idea for Double Blind come from, or how did that get started?
So the writer, Derek McGarrigle, the screenwriter, yeah, he went to film school as well. That's probably the best thing I would say about film school. Like a lot of my collaborators on this film and on my short films are guys that I met, guys and girls that we met in film school, and we came up together.
That's a recurring theme in all of our guests. They say the best thing about film school is the people you meet.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely.
And all three of us are film school graduates, and it's right. It's
Yep.
There's people that you meet that you still work with, but yeah.
No, that's it. So that's like some people ask, oh, would you go to film school again? It's like, it depends on what you want to get out of it, but that's the main thing is the kind of the relationships and these collaborators that you still work with. Yeah. So Derek was someone that we knew from film school. He wrote Gridlock. He wrote my short films. And for our first feature, we tried to be pragmatic, I guess, because I knew for a first feature film I wasn't going to get a massive budget. So we tried to be like, okay, what limitations, if we could come up with something that was self-contained, that would be a good thing. Like I love self-contained horrors and thrillers, like The Thing, John Carpenter is one of my favorites, and there's so many others. It's just a great genre, like people, mismatched characters trapped in one location, slowly turning on each other. It's a great storytelling device. So I knew from a storytelling point of view, it would be great, but also logistically and budget-wise, it would be advantageous if we could keep it to one location. We wouldn't be jumping around. So that we kind of set ourselves those restrictions and say, okay, what kind of story could we do in one location? And then Derek just had this hook, this like concept of if you fall asleep, you die. That was just an idea that was like happening in his mind. So I thought that was really evocative and memorable. I was like, okay, if we can expand on that. So then from there came the idea of a drug trial gone wrong, and it's like these people trapped in a pharmaceutical company, and it's the drug that's if they fall asleep they die. So those are kind of that was like kind of this little kernel of an idea from the hook, and we built it out from there.
Speaking of contained thrillers, have you seen ISS?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, it's basically takes place on the International Space Station with three astronauts, three cosmonauts.
Okay.
I loved it. I don't know if either of you guys have gotten around to seeing it yet, John or Jacob, but
No.
I loved it.
Is it a recent film or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just came out last month.
Okay, no, I haven't seen it. Okay, ISS. I'm going to write that down right now.
Oh yeah, that's his two obsessions right now. Is that and Beekeeper?
I haven't seen Beekeeper yet either, but it sounds fantastic.
So much fun. You got to go into it with the right frame of mind.
Now, did you guys draw from personal experience with the not falling asleep and like, because the characters go through and not trying to fall asleep. It's not just like, oh, for 24 hours, it's days. And so things get loopy, to put it lightly, with them. Did you draw any of that from personal experience? Did you have any experiences of like staying up for days on end?
Well, early in development, we had our first kid. So for the first few months of my son Adam's life, he didn't really sleep. So I had unintentional research, like firsthand sleep deprivation research. So I was keeping like a diary of that, like some of I wouldn't have full on hallucinations, but there would be times where I catch myself, oh, well, you'd snap out of stuff, and there were some auditory delays and different senses, like trying to keep a record of that. But also, yeah, I mean, Derek and I would have done a lot of research into sleep deprivation. There's a lot of like medical studies about the effects on the body and the mind after certain hours awake. So we would kind of collate a lot of different studies and come up with ideas, and then the cast as well. I mean, everyone has had maybe a party that's gone on, a couple of days or different things, drug or alcohol fueled as well. So we all sat around and talked about different things, and and made note of how you feel, and I like the physical changes and attributes, and like how you're like less coordinated, all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun trying to figure out the different sleep deprivation tricks and techniques.
Yeah. It's very interesting because oftentimes, we associate like, oh, don't fall asleep because Freddy Krueger's gonna get you, and there's no Freddy Krueger in this, so it's more you do some really cool stuff with it. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but there's some like really cool stuff that you do with it, and definitely have had like those working weeks, being freelance where it's like, oh, I booked a day gig and a night gig, and because I need the money, and then like by like the 36th hour, you're just sitting there like, what am I doing? Where is this? Thank God I don't have to carry heavy equipment right now.
I know I mean, sleep deprivation as a form of torture, I would crack. I think I like straight away. I just feel like, just let me sleep. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I would be a terrible. I'd give up any information if it was like sleep deprivation, I think. So
you've only been here for 4 hours. I know. I really need a nap, man. I really need a nap.
Every semester in film school, all your projects are come and due at the same time. So I think every semester I had one night that was an all-nighter, that basically that, maybe 20-minute nap before I have to get up, and go to class the next day. So yeah, you don't function well the next day. I'm with you. I don't think I would last.
The way I chug energy drinks all day, like, yeah, I don't think I would. And I don't even think I could, because it would just be involuntary, just like, oh, we have no caffeine in our system. Out.
Well, that was it. That was one of the things in film, and I'm not getting spoiled, but we had to cleverly say, oh, you can't take stimulants or uppers because I'll make it worse. Because otherwise, you just be like, let's just keep taking coffee and energy drinks to work with. So we had to work that into the plot. That actually, no, that's like adding petrol to the flames, So
was that actually something you researched? Would that really happen, or is it just something with this imaginary drug?
I was imagining. I mean, look.
Oh, okay.
This is all hokum. This is all hokum.
It sounded good when I said it, but
yeah. No, it sounds good. I mean, we've made it sound as realistic as possible, but I'm sure I'm sure any scientists or like people of medicine will be looking at this going, Neil deGrasse Tyson will be totally debunking this film if he gets his hands on it.
But that would be an honor, right? Getting debunked by renowned scientists and whatnot.
I'm sure, yeah.
At least you guys didn't go to Star Trek Voyager with it, where it's just like, oh yeah, no, because the antimatter quantum array is going to be out of, and trying to throw too many scientific words in front of it. It's like, no.
Yeah.
You convinced us, at least.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like, it just kind of made sense to me too, just like knowing people who would, try and like stay active by just drinking nothing but coffee, and then the crash that would follow would just hit them even harder.
Yeah,
absolutely. And what about drug trials? Did you guys have any personal experiences with that, or did you have to?
I didn't, but Derek actually reached out to a couple of people who he did his due diligence and spoke to some people who had done some drug trials, and he got some like insight into he knew someone that was, because one of the characters like kind of the drug trial regular, so he knew someone that had done a few trials and was kind of based in some attributes and some stories on that, and actually, we've been lucky enough to go to a number of film festivals before it was released. Like, we had a bit of a run, and I would say, like 9 times out of 10, there'd be someone in the audience who would either say it in the Q&A or come up to us after and say, I actually was in a drug trial and then blah blah blah. Like, no, nothing as serious as this, I guess. But there were some weird ones like blood thinners and stuff like that. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Have you guys ever done a trial, or have you ever done it?
I tried. I was very broke when I first moved to LA, so I tried to get into those, but they didn't want me. Instead, I got to test chips. Yeah.
I always admired Robert Rodriguez. That was his whole thing, like, selling his blood and stuff, like El Mariachi. So I didn't get to do that now.
Oh, I know lots of people who sold plasma just like as like a side gig.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I funded my first short. My half of the budget was through selling plasma. Saved up that $35 a time.
Yeah, that I'll always remember, Robert Rodriguez talking about in his book about how he sold his body to medical science in order to get the funding in order to create El Mariachi.
Yeah, which is admirable, and we don't recommend it.
Yeah, he did not seem to have a fun time doing it.
So once the movie's made, what was the path to distribution? because it's out now. You can see Double Blind on VOD, and I believe Blu-ray is sometime next month in March, I guess.
Yeah.
What was the path from having this finished film to getting it distributed, getting eyes on it?
So we had our sales agent at Epic Pictures. They came on board early in the project. So during the development process, with Screen Ireland, we were writing a number of drafts. We went over to Montreal to the Fantasia Film Festival to pitch at this thing called the Frontiers Co-Production Market. So it's this thing every year that they do as part of Fantasia where 10 genre projects are selected to, in development projects, or late stage development, get to pitch in front of a load of industry, sales agents, distributors, that kind of thing. And then on the back of that pitch, you get like some one-to-one meetings over a few days. So we did a pitch, went really well, and then we met a number of sales agent distributors, and one of them, Epic, they really responded to it, and they came on board the film early on, like gave money towards the production. So then they were kind of secured for the US distribution side of it then at the end. And then in Ireland, we have Wildcard Pictures. They're the Irish distributors. So it's actually in the cinemas here at the minute. It's on a theatrical run in Ireland. And then it's out on VOD in the States at the minute. So yeah, it's great. It was good that we knew, I suppose, going into the film being made, that we had like a release plan in place. So
That's awesome. Have you snuck into any general screenings of it just to see people's reactions?
No, I'm going tonight. That's the plan. I'm actually going tonight. Yeah, so I'll let you know. I was it's on its second week of run now, so I was like, I'll go in there and see. I'll try and pick a cinema where I'll look and see if there's a decent crowd and just sit back. To be honest, not that I know I'm here promoting the film, but I've seen the film so many times that I can't watch it anymore. So I'm not like running to the cinema to see it again, but I would like to see it with a general audience, buy a ticket, bag of popcorn. Yeah.
Well, that's when you watch the people watching it, to see their reactions. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the fun. I mean, you want to hear if they laugh at the funny bits, or if they jump or gasp at, the horror stuff. So yeah, that's all I want to see.
I can imagine, especially some of the scenes in this movie, and just sitting there being like, come on, you guys aren't ready for this. You aren't ready for this next bit,
I've told the story a few times, but when Hereditary came out, I had seen a press screening of it, and I went back opening night have you seen Hereditary?
Oh, yeah.
I went back opening night to watch the audience during that scene, and it was exactly what I expected. Just the air comes out of the room, and anybody who's seen it knows the scene I'm talking about. But yeah. Sometimes audience watching is more fun.
Yeah, no, although it's funny you mentioned Hereditary. Hereditary was one where I actually was annoyed that I saw it in the cinema because of the crowd I was with. They were laughing at a lot of the horror bits. Like, I don't want to spoil Hereditary for people, but towards the end, I can do this motion because I'm not on video, but when she's doing that,
yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is shocking. But then there were some teenagers like cracking up laughing, and that just dissipated the tension in the room, so... Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I think it was a nervous laugh, maybe, or I don't know. And it happened with his other film as well, Midsummer. Some of the kind of cultier bits, the nudity and stuff, they thought it was hilarious. But I was like, oh, you're taking me out of the film now, So.
Oh, that was the same for me with Get Out. It was just like we had this one group that was just like laughing at all the satire, like the really charged like moments, and it's like, but you're not supposed to laugh at that. That's not. No. And then like there's another group of like older elderly folks that were there. They were there for the whole movie until the skull scene. And then they were out. They were gone. Yeah. They were just like, nope. Like the second there was any blood, they were like out, and they just like walked out. I'm like, how do you walk out during this part? Like everything's being revealed. What are you doing?
Crazy.
And then you have movies like A Quiet Place where you've got a sold out packed theater and everybody is dead silent.
Yeah. Funny enough, one of the most respectful audiences I've ever seen of teenagers was when I went to see Five Nights at Freddy's, because like they were recording themselves and laughing stuff before the movie, but when that started, they were dead focused on Five Nights at Freddy's.
Well, they were invested. There are so many Five Nights at Freddy's fanboys. They're like, shh, I don't want to miss this.
Yeah, no, teens love their Five Nights at Freddy's. They're very respectful for that bear.
Yeah.
Oh, and Ian, something else I wanted to ask about was the production design for the Blackwoods pharmaceutical facility. I really like how it looked, and it just kind of had that combination of artificial hospitality and like well also being off-putting being a medicinal facility. So I just want to ask a bit about that.
Oh yeah, well, thank you. That was the intention. It was we tried to have like Blackwood being this, to the face that they have to the world is all like friendly, family medicine, and then yeah, the trials that are making these drugs are in these sort of sterile, cold, like a subterranean, windowless basement. And there's no daylight. They have a tree in the common room, but that's the only link to nature. But it's really artificial. Then, as a result, you just have this tree in this sort of sterile facility. So, yeah, I really wanted to have, again, it sounds like a cliche, but have the location be another character in the film, like the Nostromo and Alien or Outpost 31 and The Thing, like just this. I just wanted it to have a bit of character and be as distinctive as possible. So, and because it's one location as well, you do try and make it as interesting as possible. It was a really specific location requirement, like the brief that we had. And if we had a bigger budget, it probably would have been a set build in a studio lot. But because we didn't have a massive budget, it was something we had to find an actual building that we could then augment and design and build smaller set builds within. So it took a long time to find the place, but when we did, it was great. It was a blank canvas for our art department and our production designer, Steve Kingston. They just did a great job. And it was across all departments. We tried to have that Blackwood brand. I picture Blackwood as having deep pockets, so they'd have an interior designer and all that. And I went for like a minimalist design, and there's like some Japanese influences, all this kind of stuff. So we tried to carry that over in through like costume and wardrobe, and just so that it was sort of a brand image, like continuity throughout.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it felt like they were inside of a tech startup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And even outside that, just because of the nature of it being subterranean and like everything was just so in place with the look and everything, I found myself being distrustful, especially because, there was no sun. You saw no sun. And so all the light was artificial and coming in. And I found myself at one point just being like, do we actually know this is an actual day has gone by, or could they have just, simulated it or something? Like, I found myself just being very distrustful of like any information that was presented by the company. Especially towards the end, I was like, I don't know if that was just my own paranoia coming out, but like, I was like, I don't trust this counter. Like, I don't know.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, that's brilliant that you told. Yeah, you just wanted that whole paranoia, and you can't and that, especially with sleep deprivation, you just can't trust yourself or trust anyone else. So anything that fed into that atmosphere, that tone, that claustrophobic vibe of it, yeah, that's what we were going for.
Absolutely.
I have a question. I'm not sure how much of this you know about, but as the music junkie of the three of us, where did you find the composer? I loved the score, and was that did you hunt? Is it a person? Dihexen?
Dihexen, yeah.
Dihexen, okay.
Which means the witch in German. Dihexen.
A single person, not a group?
No, single person.
Okay.
Yeah, like Diane is her name. She's an Irish composer. Yeah, so she did, I don't know if you saw Kate Dolan's film, You're Not My Mother, another Irish horror film.
Yes.
She did the score for that, and it was the same cinematographer, Narian Van Male, who shot Double Blind, shot Kate's film. So during production, he was saying, "Oh, I think D. Hexen would be great for this." Like, so I interviewed a number of composers in post production, like to see, and I just really clicked with D, and we both love John. Again, going back to John Carpenter, he was sort of our North Star. Like, I just wanted, like that synthy 80s. I think that's like we're not going pure Carpenter. I want, like, D puts her own flavor and spin on it, but that was sort of okay, we can look at some of John Carpenter's stuff and that electronic-y kind of stuff and see, because I thought that artificiality I thought would work well with Blackwood and what was going on in the trial. So yeah, I think the score is phenomenal. I think Dee did a great job, and it's great to hear that you liked it, because a lot of people have really responded to the sound design and the score. I think they meld really well together.
Yeah, they really do. Is there, and I don't know if you know this, is there going to be any kind of a release of the score, like a vinyl release or anything?
I think Dee, she had plans. I know she did it with her score for "You're Not My Mother," so
Okay.
I think she plans to do this for Double Blind as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. Keep my eye out for that.
Yeah. We're big soundtrack vinyl junkies. So.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Well, I also just want to say congratulations because, as you said, this is your feature debut and it's getting rave reviews at this time. I mean, I know we loved it, but all around, I think on Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's sitting at 100%. So that's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, no,
Congratulations.
thank you. That's sort of the aspiration. I just want to make it fresh, baby. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's great. Like the response so far has been really positive and really encouraging. Yeah, you never know. I suppose like it's first film, you just. Yeah, I suppose you're the audience member first. You have to make something that you enjoy, but like you obviously wanted to see a wide audience and people to respond to it, and everyone so far has been really enjoying it. So it's really rewarding. A lot of people worked really hard on it, and it's great to see the response.
And would you be interested in making more movies in horror?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is. I'm hoping this is my calling card. This is what I want to do. I'm not just going to veer off now and make a costume drama or a love story.
That was actually my next question. What's next for you? Do you have anything lined up that you're working on that you can talk about? We hear the word NDA all the time when we ask this question. So.
I won't be able to give too much, but I can tell you that the writer and producer of this, we have another feature film in development with Screen Ireland. We're at a kind of first draft stage. It's another horror thriller. It's called Sway. I can tell you that much, but I probably can't tell you much more than that. But yeah, we're like Derek. He's a great writer, and he's got a really cool concept. It's another high concept hook horror. It's not just in one location; it's on a bigger scale. So hopefully, it'll be bigger budget. And yeah, we're working away on the script of that at the minute. So maybe all going well. Maybe next year going to production. So
awesome! Looking forward to it. Keep us posted.
Yeah, we'll have you back to talk about that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to come back.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Ian, thanks for joining us this afternoon for you, morning for us. In case you can tell, Ian's in Ireland and we're in California. So
yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I have to drag you out of bed early on a Sunday. So
we record this early all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. No, thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure to talk to you guys, and thanks for your response to film. I'm glad to hear you enjoyed it. That's great.
Oh yeah, we really did. And when Sway comes out, we'd love to have you back.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I'm there.
Okay, great. All right, let's wrap this one up then. Our music is by Restless Spirit, so go give them a listen. And our artwork is by Chris Fisher, so go give him a like. Where can people find you on the socials, Ian, to keep up with what you're doing?
Instagram, it's Ian High Definition. And I've got a website, ianhuntduffy.com, and Twitter, and if you go to ianhuntduffy.com, you'll find my social handles. That's it.
Cool. Pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can find us pretty much everywhere as Eye on Horror or at iHorror.com, which is the site that we all call home. And everybody see Double Blind on VOD now, on Blu-ray next month, sometime in March. I believe late March, the 26th, I believe is the date. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. So everybody see Double Blind. And we will see you in a couple of weeks. So for me, James J. Edwards.
I'm Jacob Davison.
I'm Jonathan Correa.
And I'm Ian Hunt-Duffy.
Keep your eye on horror.